Hello, everyone. So, thank you very much for joining me, where I'll be talking about why children are so defiant. So, in this video, you are going to learn what drives the most challenging behavior and what you can do today to make changes. All right, my name is Stephanie Wicker-Campbell. I am a behavior consultant in Sydney, Australia, and you can learn more about me at stephaniewicker.com. So who should be watching this video? So let's start with that. Most of my video series and my trainings and my clients consist of products for parents. Parents who are struggling with defiant behaviors at home. Might be disobedience, backchat, tantrums, maybe tantrums that are in later years, like 6 or 7-year-olds who are still struggling with tantrums and coping. Also, I work with teachers who are feeling very overwhelmed by the defiance in their classroom. Usually defiance in the classroom is evoked through disengagement, so the kids are basically bored and they're not engaging in the lesson or they're not motivated by the lesson. So what happens is they tend to exhibit defiant symptomatic behaviors. So the last group of people that I want to be reaching with this video are child carers, educators, preschool teachers, anyone like that, nannies that are interested in understanding early development and behavior management strategies. All right, so today we are talking about defiance. So defiance is basically a label for symptomatic behaviors that might look like backchat, disobedience, ignoring, maybe yelling or cursing, possibly even tantrums at an older age. So those are all symptoms of defiance. But ultimately, what is the underlying causation of defiance? Well, that would be counter coercion. Okay, so counter coercion is when someone feels the need to say, I'm in charge of me. You do not control me. I control me. All right. That is counter coercion. And where does counter coercion come from? Why does anyone feel the need to tell someone that they are in control of themselves? Well, obviously, that would be a direct result of feeling like you are being coerced. So that feeling of coercion would lead anyone, not just children, but anyone, to counter coercion and defiant behaviors. Okay, so let's have a look at coercion. So what am I talking about there? So coercion is when someone tries to control or coax someone else into doing what they want. And this is very often a fallback when we are experiencing challenging behaviors that we don't know how to control. What do I do? My child is not listening to me. This student will not sit down with the rest of the class. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to get them to do what I need them to do? And a lot of the times, because we don't have the answer right away to that question, what do I do? A lot of the times our fallback is, well, I will control them. I will make them do it. You will listen to me. I am the adult. How often do we get stuck in that battle almost of us versus them? Who is going to outlast who? I'm the one in control. You need to listen to me. You need to make the right decision. You need to be good, right? So we tend to get really sucked in to this coercive nature. And the natural consequence to being coerced is counter coercion. This is not intentional. So children are not bad people. Children do not set out to offend us. They do not set out to be against us. This is completely natural development because of where their brain is at the time. And this is true for adults as well, by the way. And we forget that. We forget that children are humans and people just like adults are people, but we tend to see them as subhuman, almost like, oh, well, I can control him, or they need to listen to me because I know better. I've got more experience. I'm 30 years older than they are, so clearly I know what to do. And of course, there's absolutely truth in that. Absolutely. So children do need to listen to us. We are their teachers and we are here to guide them. However, when it turns into trying to control them and manipulate them into doing what we want, the result is going to be consistent defiant behaviors, such as backtalk, ignoring us, disobedience, avoidance, all of those kinds of things that are incredibly difficult and incredibly overwhelming for us in the moment, right? So what I want you to be asking yourself as you're watching this is, am I using coercion? Is coercion my fallback when children don't listen to me? Do I automatically dive in with trying to control them or trying to coax them or bribe them into listening to me? Because if that's the case, then let's talk about it, okay? So what does coercion look like? All right, so from an adult's point of view who is using coercion, what that might look like is using some threats. Threats is a big one. If you don't listen to me, you're not going to that birthday party. If you don't do this, then you're going to lose the iPad all weekend. And we have all these really massive threats in hopes that we can motivate them to listen to us through a threat. All right. So another form of coercion might be timeout. You're not doing what I want, so you need to go away. You need to go be by yourself for a while. Get out of here. Right? Because you're not listening to me and you're not doing what I want you to do. So you need to go away. That is absolutely a form of coercing someone to do what we want. Another one might be loss of privileges. So a child is engaging in a behavior, so we remove an item. And I'm not saying that these are necessarily bad or wrong things to do. I'm just giving examples of what coercion might look like. Now, the key to these things is when we begin to overuse them. So there are times when loss of privileges is very effective, but there are also times when it is not. It's not effective when we use it all the time. It's not effective when every day we're removing something as a consequence. So that's when we need to be very, very careful, is that overuse. Another example of coercion is disconnection. So when we become disconnected to a child. So this might look like, why do you always do that? Why are you so difficult? So disconnection and blaming kind of go hand in hand, because it takes disconnection to evoke blaming a child for their behavior. Because otherwise we would be like, I understand that this is hard for you, and I really want to be there for you and support you through this challenge right now. But what happens is we take the behavior personal and we disconnect. And by the way, their behavior very much resembles ours. So counter coercion is completely reflective of coercive behaviors. So we need to be very mindful that if a child is yelling in our face, let's be very careful that at some point we haven't been yelling in their face either. Okay. Why are you always yelling at your brother? You know that's wrong, right? Okay. So they're going to give that exact behavior right back at us, right? So we want to be very, very mindful of that. So what are the consequences of coercion? What does coercion lead to? Basically, why are children defiant? Okay, so children are defiant, first off, because they're detached. So we become detached and they become detached, right? So everything is their fault. We no longer are empathetic and connected. We're disconnected. The next thing is they start to feel discouragement. Oh, well, I wasn't going to get that anyway, or she always says no to me. And then they give up and they stop trying. They lose that motivation to try, which is ironic because we're trying to motivate them as much as we can. But unfortunately, it kind of does the opposite. The next thing to be concerned about when using a lot of coercion is those negative associations. Well, mom never listens to me, so I'll go ask dad instead. Or my teacher doesn't like me, so I don't want to go into the classroom. So negative associations come very naturally when a child feels like they are consistently being coerced or coaxed into something. The next thing is hopelessness. I'm never going to succeed. I'm never going to get an A in that class because that teacher hates me. Or I was never able to go to the soccer game anyway, so I may as well act out. So hopelessness, unfortunately, also evokes more problems. So the next thing is resentment. So resentment is a big one So they start to feel that disconnection and they start to resent specific people. And you're going to find that when someone resents you, you know it. You know it because that defiant behavior, it just increases dramatically. And then the last thing is overwhelm. So you become overwhelmed, which leads you to falling back onto behaviors that you probably do not choose for yourself. No one chooses to yell at their child. No one chooses to be angry. No one chooses to be sick of the classroom. You know what I mean? Like, no one makes that choice. That is an emotional decision. It's emotional. So it's usually triggered through overwhelm. So imagine if you're overwhelmed and you're falling back onto coercion and punishment and all of these things, then your child is also going to feel overwhelmed, and they're also going to fall back onto counter coercion and defiance. And you guys are simply reflecting one another's behaviors. You're mirroring one another's behaviors to each other. Okay, so what's the answer? Why are we talking about this? Because it's a bit of a downer, isn't it? Okay, well, wonderfully, the answer is very simple. It is motivation. So rather than focusing on controlling someone else's behavior, which, by the way, is not possible. It is not possible to control another person's behavior. It's simply not, unless you are planning to literally hand over hand guide your child throughout their entire life and like push one foot forward with your legs so you can make them walk. And I mean very literally physical control. You cannot control someone else's behavior. And I think that that is where a lot of us we forget. We forget you can't control somebody else. And this is common in adults as well. We get married to someone, or we have a close relationship with someone, and we think we'll change them. They will become this amazing person once they spend time with me, and I can make this work. We've all been there. And it's the same thing with parenting, and it's the same thing with teaching and child caring, is we tend to think that we can control a young child's behavior. They will listen to me. They will listen. They will do as I say. But in reality, you cannot control somebody else's behavior. So what can you do? You can motivate them. You can motivate them to be in alignment with you. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to do all of that. So I teach parents and teachers and child carers step by step how to support your child's listening the first time using motivation and motivational strategies. Okay? So let's talk about how you can shape behavior without coercion. And the whole reason I'm making this video is, of course, to tell you all about my new video series where I teach my clients step by step how to do all of this. So we start off with talking about emotional development and how to connect in the moment. And in behavior science, we call that pairing. And this is incredibly important, being able to bond and connect before you place any contingencies, before you have any expectations. This is always the first thing that should be on our plate. So I've heard many parents describe this as relationship, and absolutely, it's all about relationship and making connections. The next thing I look at in my course or my series is why challenges continue throughout early childhood. Why do children have such a hard time with the smallest things? Why are they having tantrums? Why are they being consistently defiant all the time? What is making these children lose their cool so easily? Let's talk about that, because we need to understand it before we can really apply these things. So the next thing is how to use motivation without bribing. Oh my goodness, this is such a big one because everyone always asks me this. Well, aren't you just teaching bribing if you're blah, 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 blah? No, I'm not, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. There are massive differences between using motivation to shape someone else's behavior and using a bribe. The biggest difference, and I go into this much, much more in my video series, so please check it out, but I will share with you the biggest difference between motivation and bribing is motivation, you fade out. You become motivation in and of yourself over time when you use it properly. So you no longer need an iPad, you no longer need a candy bar, you no longer need anything to motivate that child because you become the motivation. And this is something that we see happen every single day in the classroom. When a teacher can say, okay guys, let's all sit down and we're going to do our lesson. And all the kids come running over and they're so excited to learn. She has used motivation so beautifully that she is now paired and connected with all of those kids where she no longer needs an outside source. She is the motivation herself. Now, this is very different from bribing, because bribery you cannot fade out. Bribery goes hand in hand with threats. So we try bribes, that doesn't work, we get desperate. What do? We fall back onto coercion and threats. All right? So bribing never works, which means you can never fade it out. And it doesn't work long term. It seems to work in the moment. Oh, look, here's some chocolate. Come with me. Here's some chocolate. Come with me. And they follow you. Oh, great. That worked out beautifully. But if you cannot fade that out, then you are absolutely bribing that child. And unfortunately, it will not succeed long term. The next thing we look at is how to punish without coercion. How awesome is that? So I actually do teach punishment procedures. And I'm not going to go into depth about why I teach punishment, because I'm sure by now you've probably watched some of my other videos where I talk all about punishment, why I use it, what the problems are with it, and how to use it effectively, what the definition is of it, and why I love it so much. Okay, so I'm not going to go into it right now, but I absolutely teach. There are many videos, that teach specific punishment procedures that are evidence-based through research and that are without any coercion or without any coaxing. And by the way, the first thing before you can even use a punishment procedure is you've got to be able to connect with that child. So it is all about building a relationship, even through your discipline, especially through your discipline. So please check it out. So the next thing is what to do in the heat of the moment. So your child just screaming in your face. You know, your child is literally rolling around on the floor having a tantrum. What can you do? I am going to tell you step by step exactly what to do. Exactly how to handle it, exactly how to keep your calm in the moment. And lastly, I am going to help you rekindle your passion for whether it's parenting, teaching, or just childcare in general and children. You will absolutely rekindle your passion through this course, because I think the reason that we burn out and the reason we become so overwhelmed in the moment is simply because we don't know what to do. We don't know how to handle these challenging behaviors. You know, what am I supposed to do? My kid just spit in my face. What can I possibly say to that? You know, all of these parenting gurus are saying don't use punishment. But what else am I supposed to do? My kid's walking all over me. Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. And I'm also going to help you build an incredible relationship with your children during the process. So while your child is engaging in defiant behaviors, you're going to be like, ooh, I have a toolkit now, and I'm just going to draw this out and this out and this out, and you are going to be literally Mary Poppins with her bag, pulling your tools out of your bag, and it's going to be absolutely incredible. So I hope that you join me. You can learn more about me at stephaniewicker.com, and please check out my From Chaos to Calm Behavior series, which is brand new, and I'm very excited about it still. And you can also join my free community at facebook.com/groups/chaos to calm. Get in on the conversation.